All
It's
right.
like I was the wayward one.
Good morning, all. Madam Chair, we are live on YouTube, and I'll hand it off to you.
Great. Well, good morning, and thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 18th, 2021 regular business meeting of the Washington County Board of Commissioners. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service district, is now meeting this regular session, May 18th, 2021. Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Here.
Vice Chair Treese?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here. Commissioner Roy Rogers is excused for today. He is speaking at a conference. We have just a couple of updates to the agenda compared to the original posted agenda. On the consent agenda, item 12, the bid award was added to the packet. Then on the consent agenda, item 17 was added. Are there any questions on the agenda changes? No. Okay. So the first item on the agenda is oral communication. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
We did, Madam Chair. We had Jim and Susan Claus, but they have requested to go at the end of the meeting now. So okay. We have no one currently.
All righty. Great. Then we'll move on to the next items on the agenda. First is the consent agenda. We have a mighty thick packet today, and there are 17 items on the consent agenda. I really want to give a great shout out to staff on all these different items, both from Washington County as well as Clean Water Services. And I really appreciated the information that was provided in the packet, particularly for items 6 on the affordable housing Valfre at Avenida. And I was really excited to see the MWESB goal of 35%. Then on item 7 on the homeless services plan, particularly the non-congregate shelter in the partnership with the Salvation Army, the team has really been committed to meet the needs of our community members, particularly during the pandemic. So I'm grateful for that. And then on item 14, this is one reason why our packet was so thick. The various studies done by both Eco Northwest, Jacobs, and DKS were all very useful. So a lot for us to wade through. Thank you, staff, for the great work. So the consent agenda consists of 2 sets of minutes, 3 items from Clean Water Services, 3 items from Housing Services, 3 items from Support Services, and 6 items from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the Commission on the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie, and Commissioner Treese has seconded that. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. The next item on the agenda is presentations. And today we have a presentation from the auditor on a recent audit on succession planning. So I'd like to welcome our independently elected auditor, John Hutzler, and a member of his team, Fiona Earl. And hopefully I've pronounced last names correctly. John and Fiona, you're still on mute.
Good morning, Chair Harrington.
Great, we can hear both of you now, and we can see you as well, Fiona.
Don't see me, huh?
Nope.
Okay, hold on. How's that?
There you are.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. For the record, my name is John Hutzler. I'm your elected county auditor. I'd also like to introduce my colleague, Fiona Howell-Earl. Fiona is a senior management auditor in my office and led the audit of county succession planning that we're presenting to you today. We use the term succession planning to encompass county efforts to ensure government's effective performance by providing for the development, replacement, and strategic application of key employees over time. We undertook this audit because in 2019, your board recognized succession planning as a board priority, and Human Resources identified it as an area of focus in its strategic plan. In August of that year, HR presented to your board its projections that nearly a quarter of the county's workforce would be eligible to retire within 5 years. With other departures, HR has estimated the county will need to replace half its workforce within 5 to 7 years, many in key leadership positions. Next slide, please. And the next slide. Our audit objective was to determine whether existing or planned county succession planning activities incorporate best practices. To accomplish this, we reviewed the succession planning literature to identify best practices and evaluated whether existing county policies and practices and the HR strategic plan for the future reflected such practices. Next slide, please.
We identified 12 best practices against which we evaluated current county policies and practices and the HR strategic plan. I will explain briefly why each is important. The active support of top management is critical to sustain succession planning across transitions in leadership. Up-to-date policies adopted by the governing body demonstrate active support and participation from leadership. Without a formal plan, succession activities tend to occur haphazardly. When succession planning is informal, incumbents are more likely to identify and groom successors similar to themselves in appearance, background, and values. A formal plan can enhance efforts to develop a diverse workforce. Succession planning is a complex activity involving human beings. Clarifying the roles and responsibilities of key actors is essential to successful implementation. A core element of a good plan is communicating the plan to those affected. Succession plans that are thoughtfully communicated to employees are more likely to succeed. A succession plan should identify critical positions, the risks of vacancies, and a process for smooth change in such positions. Many positions require specialized knowledge, skills, and abilities. Identifying those critical competencies is essential to ensure that replacements are well qualified. Strategic alignment involves assessing future workforce needs based on the strategic direction of the organization. It prepares an entity to meet new challenges and take advantage of emerging opportunities. Next slide, please. Managers need good data to guide their decisions and actions. Information such as reasons for turnover, turnover rates, and retirement eligibility is critical to succession planning. Analysis should encompass the size, skills, and competencies of the current workforce, the numbers, skills, and competencies required for the future, and the gap between those two. Training managers to participate effectively in succession planning by developing the talents of their direct reports also promotes equity in the treatment of employees. Developing the competencies of current employees through formal training and development assignments, such as job shadowing or job rotation, can prepare interested candidates with the skills required for advancement when vacancies occur. Improving recruitment and retention policies and practices can reduce departures and enhance prospects for filling vacancies that do occur. Written policies and procedures for the transfer of institutional knowledge from a departing employee to their replacement improves the prospects for a successful transition. Knowledge transfer is a critical component of managing succession. Last but not least, it is essential to evaluate succession planning efforts to determine whether they achieve desired outcomes. Defined performance measures provide a basis for evaluating outcomes and holding management accountable for achieving results. Next slide, please.
In regard to existing practices, we found that the County Administrative Office does not have a succession plan for the county, nor is there an administrative policy or procedure requiring that departments develop succession plans or ensure knowledge retention. None of the departments we reviewed had a written succession plan, and practices varied from department to department. Knowledge transfer occurred mostly by informal, ad hoc processes. Retired employees were rehired specifically to record critical knowledge or train their replacements. As for the future, HR's 2019 strategic plan included a 5-year succession planning initiative, but that process has not yet started. The HR plan incorporates to some degree each of the best practices we have described. Next slide, please. But we found room for improvement in 6 of the 12 areas we have discussed: demonstrating management support, adopting a formal succession plan, clarifying roles and responsibilities, ensuring alignment with the county's strategic goals, retention and transfer of critical knowledge, and ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Next slide, please.
We made 6 recommendations for action. 1, the Chief HR Officer should review and update the HR strategic plan to more fully incorporate best practices and should implement the succession planning initiative with all deliberate speed. 2, the plan should include ongoing monitoring of the succession planning initiative to measure progress toward desired outcomes. 3, the Chief HR Officer should propose an administrative policy for adoption by the board that directs the county administrator to plan for succession in the county workforce. 4, the county administrator should implement that policy through an administrative procedure that defines the roles and responsibilities of the CAO, HR, and department management in the succession planning process, and a process for the capture and transfer of institutional knowledge. 5, once developed, the Chief HR Officer should submit the succession plan to the county administrator for implementation or board adoption. 6, to better guide succession planning efforts going forward, the CAO should develop a new Washington County strategic plan for board approval, which we realize is in process. Next slide, please.
We appreciate the cooperation and support we've received from the County Administrative Office, Human Resources, and numerous departments. We could not have completed this audit without them. Next slide, please. The full report, together with the County Administrator's response, is available in the agenda and at the County Auditor's website. Next slide, please. The County Administrator agreed with our recommendations and will now present her plans to implement them, after which we'll respond to any questions you may have.
Board Chair, Commissioners, Auditor Hutzler, and Fiona. Thank you for your presentation. And as you reflected, John, I do agree with all of your recommendations. I do want to mention that as part of employee well-being, our Chief HR Officer, Eva Labonte, is taking a much needed vacation. And so she is not on this meeting with us due to that. And I asked her not to tune in and to stay on vacation. So this organization is in a point of transition. COVID happened and is still happening, and that's really disrupted the HR's goals to move forward with the strategic plan. As you can see in my response letter, there are clear timelines on achieving each of the recommendations that Mr. Hutzler had outlined in the report. We are committed as a Washington County leadership team to ensuring a strong workforce to meet the future community needs of Washington County, and succession planning is one aspect of that. And that concludes my comments.
Next slide, please. We're happy to address any questions that the board may have regarding this audit.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I want to thank the auditor and Fiona, John, and for the audit. We've been discussing succession planning for several years, and with Tanya coming on board, or Miss Angie coming on board as the county administrator, I have felt much more comfortable about our future in relationship to succession planning. So this just reinforces what I believe has been the steps that we've been taking along the way. So I don't want to minimize your audit, but I just feel strongly that it reinforces and gives us even more push to make sure that we get this done. But I'm confident that we're on the right path. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Commissioner Treese just said and just say thank you for doing a little bit of the homework so that we can put some structure to our planning of this. This is a critical item that certainly for the future of the county, and I think I especially appreciate the fact that you had looked outside of the county and looked at other succession plans, and that's certainly something we're going to need to do as well, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So thank you for doing some homework for us, and we look forward to implementing a number of these steps that you've recommended.
Commissioner Fye, did you have anything before I kick in?
No, I echo what everyone said so far. Thank you so much, Auditor Hutzler and the team. And this is really educational for me as the newest commissioner on the board. I learned a lot about Washington County and its workforce and what needs to happen. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I want to join in thanking the auditor and the greater auditor team for doing this work. I'll say it was a bit shocking for those of us who were new to the commission as of 2019. When I followed up on the very simple question in the start of June, where do we stand with our workforce and the new PERS reform? And you noted that data here today and have really gone the next step for us to help us better appreciate where we stand as an agency, not only with regard to succession planning, but also setting the stage for workforce improvements across the board. Ms. Angie, in joining us as our new county administrative officer as of the end of August of last year, has really upped the game for the agency. And having Eva Labonte as the chief HR officer really signals to us internally as the agency, as the board, but also externally, that human resources is a capability, a skill, a competency that this agency is investing in and will be making significant progress in the years ahead. And that includes with our HR computerized systems, our enterprise systems, which we've now through the budget have come to appreciate are over 10 and 15 years old as well. So not only do we need to invest in our people, we need to invest in our systems as well. I also want to say, in addition to the auditor's office work on this, I really appreciate, Ms. Angie, the management response. You've made it very clear how you are holding yourself and your leadership team accountable to follow up on these recommendations, which I think is a new clear signal for how you are managing the agency moving forward. So I think that clarity and commitment, I know I appreciate as well as I think our community will appreciate that as well. Are there any last questions or comments from anyone?
Yes, I'd like to mention that that we placed this audit on our 2019-20 fiscal year audit program, primarily, as I've said, because the board had recognized this as a priority. Most of our field work, of course, was focused on the situation at the end of the last county administration and through the interim process. And I too have, although it's not an element of our field work and not an audit finding, I too have confidence in the current administration in light of their response. And we look forward to following up on this audit and reporting to the board on the success of the county administrator's implementation efforts.
Thank you very much. And thank you for reporting out on the audit in today's meeting. I think it is a clear signal of openness and transparency here as a business practice. Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to boards and commissions. We have an appointment to the Developmental Disability Advisory Council. We have a request to appoint Haley Myers and Erica Drew as new members and to reappoint Cindy Otis, Cindy Wilkins, and Deborah McKnight to the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Council with terms ending February 28th, 2024. We had the opportunity to discuss the applicants at a prior work session, and today is our follow-up to that with regard to these appointments. So what are the wishes of the commission?
Move for approval of the requested action.
Second, thank you. Motion from Commissioner Willie, a second from Commissioner Treese. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we'll move on to public hearings. And today we have a public hearing to approve the amendments to the service district for lighting assessment for Fernshire Gardens, number 995. Do we have a brief staff report? Welcome, Mr. Roberts.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Yes, we do have a brief staff report for you that'll be presented by Stacia Sheeler, who's our Service District for Lighting Administrator.
Good morning. On April 20th, 2021, your board scheduled a public hearing for today, May 18th, 2021, to amend the assessment area number 995, Fernshire Gardens, associated with the addition of the Sycora Ridge subdivision. Approval of this agenda will decrease the current assessment rate of $12.77 per lot per year to $9.15 per lot per year. The addition of the Sycora Ridge subdivision added 4 additional lots, 2 lights, and 2 new poles. All property owners in the affected assessment area were notified by mail the week of April 26th of today's public hearing. Staff did not receive any remonstrances or inquiries regarding these notifications. And following today's public hearing, staff recommends approval of all changes to the Fernshire Gardens number 995 assessment area. I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Scheller. Commissioners, do we have any questions on the staff report? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
We do not on this item, Madam Chair.
Okay, and with that, I'll close today's public hearing. What are the wishes with regard to approving the resolution and order to amend the Fernshire Gardens number 995 assessment area?
Move for approval of a requested action.
We have a motion from Commissioner Willie. Do we have a second? A second from Commissioner Treese. All those in favor of approving this resolution and order, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Anyone opposed? The motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very much.
We seem to have lost Commissioner Fye. Next on our agenda is action items. And today we have one item, and that is to approve the resolution and order approving the 2021 City of Sherwood Urban Renewal Plan. Mr. Roberts, do we have a brief staff report?
We do, and I'm going to ask Chris Steffenbach, our Senior Policy Analyst, to walk you through that quickly.
Thank you, Stephen, and good morning, Board Chair and Commissioners. Yes, this morning we're here to present your request for your action on the approval of the 2021 Urban Renewal Plan. It's a short presentation. We do have with us staff and consultant from the City of Sherwood if a question should come up. Next slide, please. So we are here to seek your approval of the Sherwood 2021 Urban Renewal Plan, and we are here because the state legislation requires the county to take an action because there are unincorporated properties within the boundary. Next slide, please. So in March, Mayor Mays from Sherwood and staff presented their proposal for the urban renewal area and plan to you. And since then, the board approved a resolution concurring with the inclusion of a public building project. This is a existing maintenance building that Sherwood is relocating to help from their downtown area to encourage new development. And the board approved the inclusion of that project as required by the state. And so that as previous action. And then since then, the Sherwood Urban Renewal Agency and the Planning Commission have endorsed the Urban Renewal Plan and that its compliance with the Sherwood's comprehensive plan. Next slide. So the Urban Renewal Plan is about 585 acres, and of that, about a quarter is public right-of-way. And as you'll see in the next slide, it makes for an odd-looking urban renewal area, but it allows the city to install broadband. The urban renewal plan is intended to support the development of the cities in their downtown area and in the Tonkin employment area. The city anticipates this is a 30-year collection period with a maximum indebtedness of $166 million. The next slide, please. Here's an image of the urban renewal area. As you can see, it is a odd shape and allows for the installation of public broadband. And I want to take a pause here just to express appreciation for our assessment and taxation folks who, and their cartography group, who jumped in quickly to review the legal description of this plan. It is about 70 pages long in the urban renewal plan, and I have to confess I have not read that part. So I appreciate their work in jumping in here. The next slide, please. The green areas here show the areas that are currently in unincorporated Washington County, mostly in that Tonkin industrial area. And this Sherwood urban renewal plan will really put that infrastructure in place and help the city, help facilitate the annexation with that development of these areas into the city. Next slide, please. So there are numerous projects proposed in this urban renewal plan that improve access and incentivize development within the area. They include access improvements such as the 99W pedestrian crossing over to the high school, between the high school and the YMCA. Public broadband infrastructure, as I mentioned earlier. Incentives for the downtown area, such as parking for their downtown feature of their festival plaza. And then again, additional infrastructure investments, transportation investments in that Tonkin employment area, which will really help that develop. Along with your support of the public building project, that project did get the support from 3 of the 4 impacted taxing districts, and that project is also included in the plan. Next slide. So the fiscal impact through these 30 years is estimated at about $35 million for the county. Those are funds that will be dedicated to the incentivize this development within the city of Sherwood. And as part of that, the part of establishing a new urban renewal area, Sherwood is closing their existing urban renewal area, and that will return a small amount, about $375,000 back to Washington County. Next slide. So the schedule for this is your action today, of course, and then tonight, Sherwood is hosting a public hearing on the proposed plan, and action is scheduled by the Sherwood City Council on the proposed plan for June 1st. Next slide, please. So just back to the questions, I guess, from the beginning of the slide is just, do you support approval of the urban renewal plan for the city of Sherwood?
Commissioners, before we seek a motion to move forward with approving the resolution and order to approve the 2021 City of Sherwood Urban Renewal Plan, are there any questions or comments from anyone? Seeing I'd like to compliment the City Council and staff of Sherwood. This planning effort with this new urban renewal plan and district demonstrates that they leveraged all the learnings that they had from their current, or what I'll refer to as their previous urban renewal plan. They made great improvements with that urban renewal plan to what had been the historic downtown of Sherwood. With the City Hall and Library building, with all of the street improvements, the public assets that are downtown, the plaza, the arts center. It has really made downtown Sherwood a place for people to visit, to spend their money, to really gather as a community, and that sense, building on that sense of community. It's not just a collection of neighborhoods anymore. It's a true community with a lot of community spirit. So too, they have put in a lot of planning for this new urban renewal plan. And we can really see even with its odd boundaries, we can see how this urban renewal plan will put in the needed infrastructure and investments in order for that industrial land to support additional employment and to ensure that there is good broadband capability throughout the city. So I want to compliment the city for putting this together. And we are, and I think you'll see in a moment through our approving of the resolution and order, a partner in your success. So with that, do we have a motion to approve this resolution and order? A motion from Commissioner Trees. Do we have a second? A second from Commissioner Willie. Thank you. All those in favor of approving this resolution and order, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, colleagues. Congratulations to the Washington County team and to the city of Sherwood. Thank you for all of your detailed follow-up on all of that. The next item on our agenda is the second period of oral communication. Clerk Hamas, do we have anyone signed up today?
We do, Madam Chair. Jim, Susan Claus, I mentioned at the beginning. So Jim or Susan, can you hear us? Jim, Susan, can you hear us over the phone?
Yes, I'm here, Robert James Claus.
Please go ahead, Jim.
Well, I mean, I've never heard so much malarkey in my life. Sherwood was a canning center that had got run out of business by California, and then it had remaining as CBD. You had some idiot using a lot of big words and saying there's a CBD left downtown. There isn't. Now, not only that, the schools that we gave the property to build were keeping it somewhat of a central city. It's moved outside of the city limits. There's nothing you're going to hear from these people that is the truth. This is one lie after another because you've got rotten an apple in your barrel named Keith Mays. We don't pay our councilman. We don't pay the mayor anything. We don't pay the commission. So if they're going to get anything, hopefully it's legally and vicariously. No one can guarantee that. But I can tell you that town should be called Langersville. You've changed the general plan, or actually what's called the urban morphology, totally. You've turned it into a Langer-centric town. You're now giving him money to build a hotel there, like he will that apartment house, which was a giveaway. So Nelson, Patterson, they all fled afterwards. Too much public money was given to somebody's friends without an open bid. You guys have got one rotten apple, and now you've hired Joe Gall to work for Clean Water Services, and you have one of our lawyers, planners in your long-range planning that has aided and abetted the tax fraud against us. And that's my only concern, is the tax fraud against us. This is like the Central Valley Project. It's rotten to the core. It's going to be rotten to the core forever because you're keeping too many rotten apples in the barrel. I cannot believe the way they've influenced this, and I cannot believe your sloppy, flying call would be embarrassed. You don't even know what the British Columbia urban boundary line did. It's all just talk to you people. And to get somebody up there talking about a CBD that has been utterly destroyed. Oh, I forgot. They didn't remove $3 million worth of pollution because they were too busy spending in other places. I'm just shocked. Now, all we have as a choice, and this we will do, is we will fight over the fraud and the money you've stolen from us. And I think I'll give a fair account in administrative hearings. I think you may come to regret not doing your homework, but then I'm not sure most of you are capable of it. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Claus. Does your wife Susan want to testify for up to 5 minutes?
You want to testify, don't you, Susan? Hang on, I think she's turning blue.
Hello?
Hi, Susan. Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you for your time. And obviously when a project like what we're talking about in Sherwood is put together, the other taxing agencies are only going to hear the great parts of what this can accomplish. The problem is on the line and on the front lines, as citizens in Sherwood, we see what actually happens, and there's a lot of finagling that goes on, and they can have the biggest, brightest goals in the world for what their urban renewal project is going to accomplish. And I heard Chair Harrington say that they've leveraged their lessons and that they should do better on this next one. You know, one can hope, but they also know where they can get away with things and how they can go to a citizen SERPAC committee that is filled with appointees by the mayor, who in essence rubber stamp whatever wants to be done. So the process gets pushed in the direction of the 4 votes that are needed for a change in either the boundary, parcels that are going to go into this, or projects that are going to be highlighted. So our concern is, we've been here for a long, long time. You just heard from the man that conceptualized and started the Tualatin River National Wildlife Refuge. That's my husband. That was his idea, and he rallied everybody together. And it was an easy thing to do because in Oregon, we care about the environment and we care about the sustainability for our kids and the future generations. We're not here because we're not concerned about sustainability and our future generations. And this is a 30-year plan, and you know, it needs oversight. From us observing the last 20 years, we're telling you this needs oversight. And the county, from what Roy said last time, you guys feel like your hands are tied. And we're raising an alarm because it's a lot of money. They have a 7% growth rate figured in here instead of 6%. And most of the consultants do a 5% growth rate on their other urban growth plans. So we've already got really optimistic measures being presented to everyone about how great this thing is going to go down. And, you know, I think that what Jim and I can just do is just keep periodically coming back and saying, you know, here's what you thought, here's what you were told, look what's happening. In the same way that they gerrymandered our boundaries so they could put in the football field and the lighting system for our high school. It's not that we don't want that, but urban renewal money being used for that, that's ridiculous. But we weren't on the SERPAC committee. It was very marginalized, the public input. Just like with your staff report, it only mentions 2 people who were property owners had concerns. It didn't say one thing about what Jim and I were concerned with last time we spoke with you. That's the kind of whitewashing that goes through documents that I understand the workers are very busy and it doesn't bother them, but there's no record left behind of Jim's concerns or my concerns on this urban renewal district. And we care because we live in Sherwood, and we care because it's Washington County. And we're already, you know, we've got a commitment. It's beautiful out here, but it shouldn't be used for political purposes or political favors and give backs and things like that. And we appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And please know the county administration and our local administration and want things to function as they should for the citizens. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
For the benefit of our wider community, I will note that the agenda item in our packet for today's meeting under additional information, did note that during the open communications section of our meeting on May 4th, that the Board of Commissioners did hear from property owners with concerns about the urban renewal plan as it relates to their properties, which are located within the city of Sherwood. So this is making note of the fact that we did in fact hear from the clauses. So thank you. Staff did make note of that for our benefit, and it's in the meeting record. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone else signed up for oral communication today?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, board announcements. We will be having a set of meetings tomorrow, next Tuesday, May 25th. We have a work session in the afternoon that will be starting at 2 p.m. and a board meeting on the evening of the 25th. That will be followed by a set of public hearings for our budget on Wednesday, May 26th. And we do invite every member of our community to view the budget material that's on the website, including presentations from staff that are available on YouTube. And we invite your input through these public hearings. And if you have questions, do feel free to send an email to finance_budget@co.washington.or.us. Our finance team is at the ready. And then after Memorial Day weekend is the month of June. Surprise, it's upon us already. I know a bunch of kids are anxious to finish up their academic year. We'll have a pair of board meetings on Tuesday, June 1st. Work session starts in the morning, board meeting at 10 o'clock. We will not be having a board roundtable in the month of June, given all of our efforts on budget and community outreach. So then we'll have a work session on Tuesday, June 8th, and then our pair of meetings on Tuesday, June 15th, which will include our budget adoption, and then a pair of meetings on June 22nd in the afternoon and the evening. And just for advance notice, we will not have a set of board meetings on Tuesday, July 6th. We're going to have no meetings that week, leveraging the 4th of July celebration and long holiday weekend. So we hope that everyone will plan some fun summer fun. So are there any other board announcements for today? Anything, colleagues? I should have mentioned in all of that we'll be having a board town hall on Monday, June 28th. I believe that is slated for 6:30 p.m., though I'll have to double check on that timing. But we do hope folks will join us with that. So unless there's anything else from anyone, any comments, questions? No, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn today's business meeting. Oh, but I do have a quick question. Given that I didn't expect us to be so far ahead of time, is it possible for us to reconvene the work session at 11 o'clock, or do we need to stick with the 1 o'clock timing?
So I would need to
when we're in the room.
Yeah, it is easier in the room. Thank you for that. So I would need to check with staff. I do know that Jack has a personal appointment, so he may even miss the 1 o'clock. So it may just be Susie. Can we take maybe a couple minute break so I can check with the team?
Can we do that, Mr. Rapplier?
Yes, absolutely. No problem taking a 5-minute break and check with the team. And yeah, this is a work session item, so there's some flexibility.
Okay, so why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll sync back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Ms. Angie, you're not muted.
Thank you.